Alice here, and welcome to the new In Your Paddock podcast. This is where we bring you the info, ideas, and real stories that matter to farmers across the hills, Fleurieu and Kangaroo Island. I'm your host, Alice Morley from Fleurieu Farming Systems, a farmer-led organisation passionate about practical production, innovation, and supporting our local ag community. Each month, you'll hear from local farmers, consultants, and industry experts. We'll cover everything from winter feed-based reality checks and spring pasture strategies to animal production, decision support tools, and the tech that actually makes life easier on farm. Episodes are around 20 to 30 minutes and focus on what's relevant right now, plus ideas that you can put into practice on your own farms. Through sharing knowledge and building capacity, our aim is simple: to support and strengthen the resilience of the farmers who already do so much for our regions. We're also running 4 seasonal workshops across the year, shaped by the podcast themes and your input. So hit follow, check out our website, and find us on Facebook or Instagram to stay in the loop. All the links are in the show notes. Spread the word, get your neighbours onto it. You'll find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast was made possible through the Future Drought Fund Regional Drought Resilience Program, co-funded by the Commonwealth of Australia and the Government of South Australia. We hope you enjoy listening. I'd like to start with welcoming Ben Noble as our guest for episode 1. Ben is a local farmer managing large-scale sheep and beef operations here on the Fleurieu with his wife Prue and their 3 kids. He is also on the board of Fleurieu Farming Systems and passionate about the ag industry. Ben, welcome. A lot of people in the community know you, but for our listeners, can you share a bit about who you are and your approach to farming?
Thank you, Alice. A pleasure to be on the podcast. I'm a farmer through and through, I suppose you could say. I grew up on the land in central New South Wales. Mum and Dad said, whatever you do, don't go farming. So I ended up going farming. I tried a couple of other careers, but I was always keen on agriculture from ever since I was a little kid. And I left school, I went jackarooing, I went to university and did a Bachelor of Farm Management. And then since then, I've been effectively in corporate agriculture, managing large scale sheep, beef, and cropping businesses. And today I'm running a large livestock business across several properties in South Australia. I've always really enjoyed the practical side of farming, but also the business side. I really want to understand what drives profitability. I am data driven. I want to know the numbers behind something before I make a decision. I use lots of benchmarking. I use a lot of spreadsheets. Those numbers are imperative. I'm definitely not a trailblazer. I'm not the first adopter of technology. I'd rather see
Is it
where it's
working?
been proven. Someone down the road's done it 10 times and I can know with confidence that it'll work before I adopt it. So essentially that sort of covers who I am and my approach to farming. I do probably farm a bit more aggressively perhaps than other people. And when I say aggressively, it's pushing the stocking rates and pushing production. But aggressive farming essentially to me is perhaps not the buzzword, but it's pushing stocking rates to gain production. And we'll talk a bit about why that's important to me as we go through. I think you really need to know your numbers, and I'm pretty passionate about helping people make better decisions, and that's essentially my job with the staff that I run, making better decisions on their farms for the betterment of the business and the farms they're running.
Yep. So resilience is spoken about a fair bit now. What does resilience mean to you as a farmer?
So that one is one of the latest buzzwords. Aggressive farming is not, but resilience is a really important word. I don't like how it's bandied around absolutely everywhere. However, it is really important. And to me, resilience isn't about surviving a drought. And that's often when the word comes up the most. To me, it's more about building a business that's prepared for whatever comes next. I think every single year is different. And whilst in farming, we cannot control the prices, we cannot control rainfall, we can control our controllables being stocking rate, pasture management, feed reserves, infrastructure and the speed of our decision making, which is driven a lot by some data and quality data. I think really resilience is about creating options, and the more options you've got when conditions change, the better your decisions will be. But essentially, one of the reasons we push stocking rates is for profit. Profit is, to me, the number one key to resilience in farming.
Yep. So you pretty much covered off on, well, not so much covered off completely, but priorities. What have your priorities been in managing for seasonal variability over the last few years? So data is obviously a big one. Would you share with the listeners, like, it could be pasture selection, having quality hay in the shed? How do you measure that? Like, what's the priorities in your data collection and use?
So one of the major priorities is the systems that you run. We have a temperate climate in a Mediterranean area in the Fleurieu. We have a very predictable growing season, and we want to match our livestock systems the best possible match to that growing season. And we do that via timing of lambing, timing of calving, matching those to the peak demand, those peak demand periods to the peak supplies of spring. So that's the number one thing, and then making the most of that quality feed when it's available and the quantity of spring. If you don't get that system part right, that makes everything else so much harder. And then secondly, I suppose another priority would be whenever there's surplus feed, conserving that, because as we know, we can't control the rainfall and there is variable seasons. However, we know for certain there'll be tight periods and you need fodder for those periods. So whenever we have the opportunity to make silage or hay, we tend to do that. It's not an annual program that we lock up half the farm to do it. However, it's seasonally driven, and we want to ensure we have feedstocks put away. And the third one, I suppose, we've already touched on the data, but just building better data, financial data, pasture data, livestock data, and all of these information pieces come together to help us make decisions earlier rather than later.
Yep. So is there anything else that you would like to share with listeners?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that farmers make is waiting too long. They don't get out in front of things and plan properly prior to, we talk about drought and resilience, prior to something happening. It could be the other, it could be a good season, but farmers are typically very reactive to what they see in front of them today. And I think that's one of the mistakes that we make. We need to make better plans for when things do change, good or bad. A well-equipped farmer is going to have plans that he can forecast out in time and pull different levers as he gets into those times.
Yeah. With your role in Fleurieu Farming Systems as a grower group, what do you see the benefit of our grower groups across the hills from Fleurieu being for farmers?
I think that the group can really help farmers focus on the right things, the things that matter. So here we are talking about making plans, priorities, things that matter. And a group like Fleurieu Farming Systems, I would like to think, can really pinpoint and guide farmers down the right path to making good decisions. I do say that in agriculture, but particularly or any industry really, is that there's a lot of noise. In ag, you can have 20 different advisors come to your farm and they all tell you something different. None of them really know your farm. None of them know your system properly. You know your farm and you need to plan for these times. So I'd like to think Fleurieu Farm Systems might cut out some of that noise and focus on the important things.
Yep. So good data is a key to good management. What do you consider are your top 3 levers or decision points when you can see feed is getting tight?
So for me, there's probably 3 top levers that I might employ when things are tight. Number one really is matching your stocking rate to your feed supply really early. We do our pasture budgets in Excel. We also use AgriWeb. We record actual pasture data live, and in theory, that gives you forecasted days of grazing remaining. We want to know well in advance how much pasture we have and what's our demand so that we can start to pull other levers as we get tighter. And one of those other levers that works really well for us is confinement yards. We, as I said before, run high stocking rates. So we often use confinement yards annually, and they're a key to our resilience, ensuring that we can produce a lot of beef and lamb per hectare, but also protect the resource. Confinement yards are really good for that. Another one is to really protect your asset. We spend lots of money buying farms, or they're worth lots of money, and those farms are your productive base. So again, you come back to confinement, that's a fantastic tool for segregating livestock and taking them off that productive land in order to protect it. And the other thing that it does is allow controlled feeding for animals that typically going to generate profit over the next five or 10 years, and that's typically your breeders. So it allows you to really focus on those and protect your whole asset. So they're the key levers I would look to employ. We might just jump on to technology. I think technology is really something that needs to be integrated into farming so that we can, I guess, keep up with the rising costs and build better data and create new decisions and decision points. Whether that's electric ID, weigh systems, virtual fencing, pasture management tools, the technology's not itself the goal. It's making better decisions from that.
Yep. Increasing your production
Definitely.
through using that data. You guys would be making good use of your electronic IDs and weighing systems and stuff.
We do. We don't perhaps utilize it as well as the capabilities allow you to. However, we try and keep everything very commercial, large scale, and ensure we use it to make better decisions. And typically, livestock turn off with weights and records around pregnancy rates and the like.
Yep, very handy.
Yeah, so I might just recap on one thing that I've learnt farming is you can't farm hope. You've got to make those decisions early with the information that you've got and keep assessing as conditions change. And because of this podcast being for Fleurieu Farming Systems, I'd like to reinforce, I suppose, the value of learning from other farmers. One of the strengths of agriculture is that farmers are generally pretty willing to share what works well on their farm and also what doesn't. Now, every farm is different, and we can't translate it necessarily straight across the fence to your farm. However, the concepts you usually can. And we're all going to learn faster when we share experiences. And that's why these podcasts and workshops are worthwhile. I'd probably just like to close with a few clear key messages that I think are valuable.
Yep.
Number one, build resilience before you need it. Number two is profit gives you options. To me, that is one of the key things about resilience is profit. Make decisions early. Technology should improve your decisions, not add complexity. And the last one, stay curious. Farming changes incredibly quickly, and the best producers that I've met, they never stop learning.
Yeah, very true. Fantastic points that I'm sure people will resonate with or want to know more about. Thanks, Ben, for being part of our first podcast, and I'm sure everyone would agree it's a cool thing to have happening on the Fleurieu.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, Alice, and good luck with the podcast. I'll be lots of driving that I do. I'll be listening to all the future podcasts, and good. All the best.
And that brings us to the end of episode 1. Ben's given us a really clear reminder that good farming starts with knowing your numbers, not guessing, not hoping, but actually understanding your pasture, your stocking rate, and your feed reserves so you can make decisions early. We also touched on the value of collecting the right data and using tech in a way that actually helps, not complicates things. And I love Ben's point about resilience. It's not about surviving drought, it's about being prepared for whatever comes next. Profit gives you options, and options give you resilience. And of course, one of the best parts of this industry is how much we learn from each other. Every farm is different, but the concepts translate. Join us for episode 2 on winter feed-based reality checks, filling feed gaps, and what farmers are seeing on the ground, airing late July. Make sure you follow us and keep an eye on our socials for updates, workshop dates, and farmer insights from across the hills, Fleurieu and Kangaroo Island. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back in your paddock next month. Bye.